Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 188th episode of our first YouTube run through the House of Light expansion for Book of Hours. We're playing as the Archaeologist. Now, I don't have anything on my to-do list, but I do remember that there were a few things I had in progress. We're halfway through the day. One of those things is the deliveries from Cater and Hero. I don't believe we have any remaining lessons, although there may be a question about any remaining books. We are picking up a book from Oriflamme's in a few seconds, and then if memory serves, I was going to take a bunch of this stuff and turn it into elements of the soul. So I wanted to take all of my my various skills and commit them to the Tree of Wisdoms, which will definitely mean quite a bit of talking. More intermediate term priorities, I would say we should start working on these vaults. So Mrs. Kill may be the best bet, for these, although we do also have an outside option of Reverend Timothy. Both of them, I believe, will require the same effort. So when it comes to Reverend Timothy and Mrs. Kill, we'll need to spend money. We will probably use a Newman, so either the Grail or the Knock, so the Inescapable Confinement or the Sun's Wounds. I'm pretty sure that's what it was. We both have Sacrament Asite and Sacrament Callicite to boost the Grail and the Knock, so this one is more or less straightforward. And then there's the Shaft and the Era, both roughly equivalent, and in fact both I tend to use them as elements of the soul that I get things done with. So it's really just a question of, you know, what am I feeling like on the day, really. If I found it easier to make the Sacrament Asite or the Ruby Wise Ruin, that might draw it. Might decide it. I do tend to find that I make the Sacrament Asite more, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's easier to make. When it comes to the sealed vault here, this is more or less a guarantee for Reverend Timothy. I suppose, I guess the one difference I would say, so I don't think I've got a high scale drink to offer. So why did I think there was something special about the scale? Yeah, I suspect probably I'm going to go for Knock on that. And then for the sealed vault here, again, more or less Reverend Timothy gets to be a bit of a hero here, but if I do feel inclined to edge, one advantage in this case would be that Denzel is equipped with edge, in fact equipped with 2 edge. Now the drawback is that we wouldn't have an element of the soul that has 2 edge. However, we do still have the serpent milk, we have metal. The only thing we're really trading off is the fact that the base character has 1 extra. So overall, I'd say we're feeling pretty good. Maybe what we can do is Mrs. Kill for 1, Reverend Timothy for the other, and then Denzel for the 3rd. But those don't need to be things that happen right away. I am slightly curious about the FET here. Alright, so I think we were just using up all of these slots already, so I don't think there's anything else for me to do here. I imagine probably the FET doesn't get used. Well, actually, I suppose what I could do, we'll wait to the end. Oh no, we don't need to wait to the end of the day. Maybe what I'll do is I'll read the scroll now, and then we'll get set up for Mrs. Kill to visit. Oriflammes thanks you for your custom. Where'd the book go? Okay. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff that I worked out in the previous video that I've forgotten now too, but I usually don't look at the video before recording, and I don't know. I don't really need to Um, uh, so I'm debating here whether or not I want to try and do anything with the metal, or should I just take the shaft and... Yeah, you know what? We'll restore the shaft, and then I'll deliberately make myself do something with the metal. So Tubbins will buy me a hearty meal and a quiet place where I can rest and gather my thoughts. It is summer. I am sitting on the bench outside the Sweet Bones, eating crumbly cheese and nettle wrappings and good black rye bread, soaking up the sun. Now, if we are working on Mrs. Kill and Reverend Timothy, let's actually take the time to work out a game plan for these. So, sorry, I think I might be touching the mic stand a couple of times, so sorry for any bumps and imperfections. So we'll do this for Grail first. Now we know that we're getting the Newman, so we can start with that. Actually, here, we'll do... So I was taking this in a slightly different direction. Okay, so Mrs. Kill starts off with 2. So then we'll take the Arab. So that gets us another 2 up to 4. And then we can use the spice scales. So that brings us up to 5. And then the Newman brings us up to 10. Now we need this at 14. So honestly, the easiest option here is to just do the Sacrament Calcite. We could also use the Flushed Mommet, but I don't know if... I mean, it's just as easy. Just as easy to get us up to 16. So if we do that for knock, I think there's a very similar story that we tell. So we've got Reverend Timothy. Now that's 1 knock. So then we do shaft. So that gets us 2 to bring it up to 3. Now, I believe we are still short the knock tool. I don't believe we have a knock tool to give Reverend Timothy, so that's one place where we are short. The Newman, so that gives us 5, so we're up to 8. But remembering that we need to get to 14, in that case we take the Sacrament Ascite, 4 at 6, and that brings us up to 14. Finally, for Denzel, so Denzel starts with 2. Give him the medal with 1, so that's up to 3. From here, we could do the saw. That'll give us 1 edge, so we're up to 4 now. I'm actually trying to recall if we have... Surely we have a Newman that gives us edge. I'm just trying to recall which one. And the fact is, we may not. We definitely don't have all of the... secrets of the house yet. So I may need a bit of a think on that one. But let's assume that I've got a 5. Now that's interesting. So if I take the serpent milk, that brings us up to 15, but we do in fact need 16. So that's one case where the 1 point actually really does matter. But I suppose the answer there would be acrid marrow. But that also means that we need to rely on finding a high-level edge memory. Oh, also I do have the option of using some of the metal, but I think we should try and avoid that if we can. Okay. That's enough for me to at least get started with. In fact, it may not be a bad idea here. If I'm going to try and make a sacrament calcite, I believe we have... Yeah, we've got a spare acite. Actually, we also have the spare sacrament calcite, so maybe I try... and make a... Do I have cat's claw? Oh, this'll do. No, it won't. This might, but I may have to use the oven. So yeah, intermediate goal will be to find a good edge memory, although it doesn't have to be a Newman. The skill is now level 4. Its power aspects have also increased. Honey or beeswax, if I'm careful. Cuckoo honey, if the Blumberende have been by to visit their infant nobility. Alright, we actually are getting... I think we're at the point now where I could say that the normal honey is probably the scarce item. Suppose no chat with the chickens this time around, but I can open the deliveries. So unwrap, unbox, unleash. So the Invincible Audacity is my outside option if I can't find an interesting Newman. But it probably wouldn't hurt for me to start taking some notes at this point, because if I'm feeling uncertainty with regards to the aspects for each of the Newman memories, I probably should just write that down for safety. Oh, more fish. The Sun Disfigured, a scroll of anthropoderm parchment written in the golden ink called Yuzalt. The author of this text calls herself the Elegabline. Sometimes she seems to be Sunset Celia, the Watchman's name. Sometimes she seems to be Lady Tryphon, the Grail-Long. It is unclear whether these are separate entities or the same person. It may be unclear even to the writer. The flaws in the Sun's plan are elucidated. The Sun's plan itself is never entirely clear, but it is a project of some kind to enter, possess, or surrender to the glory, the pure light above the mansis. This book suggests ways in which that plan might fail. The Sun's sins and the Sun's scars are our salvation. There are histories where they will trap us, prevent us from rising to eternity. In fact, let's start my little cataloging job. I did do in a previous playthrough, I did previously write this all down, and I was avoiding it, not for any particular reason, but I think now is the time to reconsider. So the Sun Disfigured. So that's Grail, Lantern, and Moth. Some of these definitely are, like some of these make sense to me just when you think about them. So for instance, we don't have it, but Amaranthus Spitali would be surprising if it didn't have a forge for it. But there is, there are certain points where, if you just run with assumptions in the game, you're going to find yourself in a tricky spot pretty soon. So, in this case, I haven't found too much benefit in not writing it down if it really matters for elements. Although we'll definitely be getting past that point pretty soon. All right, scraps from the Isle's Edge. We'll probably get rid of the chick just because we don't really need it. But we'll also wait till we need the Need the lost memory. Okay, some sugar. Now, I thought I had some sugar already set up. Well, if I did, I don't know where I put it. Nope, here we go. We have a sneaky one just hiding in the background too. Dripping, which wasn't expected but kind of welcome. And butter, which again I feel like we had in a certain place, but I don't think we have. Oh, there we go. Buttered, and it's pilchards. Buttered pilchards. All right, next one. So for things like trying to get the acrid marrow in that, the sack of vegetables are going to be my kind of my main source for that. There's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. So sort of just a calm finish to the day. We've got plenty of time left in summer. But at this point, so one, I don't see a whole lot of benefit to rushing through the last sort of the last areas. But on the other hand, I want to make some progress if I can. The real aim is going to be to try and not just get the various skills leveled, but to try and make some make something of the higher levels of the various skills. That's actually why I'm not necessarily going to rush to get to the sealed vault, for instance, because it may be that I have a higher level metal to work with before the end of all of this. Okay, unwrap, unbox, unleash. So another pheasant. Here we go. Beef. Okay, just letting it air out a little bit. And lots of almonds. Looks like we're going to change up the storage a little bit. I don't know about you, but I always like to store my almonds by the paint and the fuel. All right, and again, unless I want to try and restore my elements of the soul, I think that's it for the day. Now, in terms of, there'll be a couple of, let's say, intermediate goals that I have here. I'll see if I can show what I'm talking about. With Keeper level Edge, Perenculate is the precursor to Serpent Milk. So one thing I'm kind of interested in here is that, all things being equal, if I can make some progress towards leveling up these various skills, I want to take it. Now that doesn't mean I'm going to ignore something like being able to commit things to the Tree of Wisdoms. We're more or less set for that. But if I can make some progress towards that, absent any other priorities, I want to follow through on that. Where I can, if I can upgrade the Perenculate to Serpent Milk, I want to take that opportunity because that means I'm just that much closer to opening up the vault. And then I do want to get a couple of treasures of the house, but I'd like to do that in sort of reflecting some knowledge that's been presented in terms of the books that I've been reading, which is one reason why I want to still keep pushing forward with some of these books here. The other thing that I wanted to highlight is that we do also have a further story. So I'm going to be inviting guests a little bit more aggressively, but I kind of want to do that after we've already visited the Tree of Wisdoms. So, and you know what? I don't think I have much to rest on today, so we'll just Set that up. So what I might do, I might kind of take this two at a time, where I'll be reading, I'll take some of these texts, I'll read one of them, each. So one, let's say one phonograph, one film, one book, and we still have enough time in summer for that to be something that's not going to put me in a tough spot. But for tomorrow, I think our biggest priority for sure is getting Mrs. Kill enrolled. And then I don't think it will hurt to do... Yeah, I think I'm going to do what I said. So one book, one film, one phonograph, focus on getting Mrs. Kill to open up the sealed vault, and then we will commit some things to the Tree of Wisdoms. Memories fade, assistance departs, but the soul is refreshed. Mrs. Kill likes conversations about beginnings. Her husband prefers to talk about endings. A shilling will buy her help for a day. A day's work is a night's dreaming. Fixing and mending. There's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 worth of odd jobs. All right. So, for a start, the Admonitory Automata project. Now, where I can, I'm going to give just what's required as far as the memories go. So we're at 2 here. It doesn't require a language. So in this case, it would be a skill with 8, unless I can come up with some sort of memory, which I don't really want to in this case. I think Bells and Braziers is about as good as I'm going to get. I can master this mystery, enough forge to match mystery forge. So while we're at it, let's do... Actually, before we go any further, let's take care of the other big phonograph that I have. A Tower Rises. That may not be one that I can do without assistance. In fact, I think it's very likely I won't be able to do it without assistance. So we'll start with the Fet. First and easiest thing that I can do is just sort of get the table stakes down. So in this case, we know that as far as skill is concerned, I want the highest level of Rose, which in this case I believe is Sky Stories. Nope, we do have Pearl and Tide at 10, so just as well that I got it there. So with what we know we can offer, we've got Fet, we've got Pearl and Tide, we've got Vac. That's as high as any of those are going, unless I, commit some things to the Tree of Wisdoms and level up Fet. So from here, the question is, what do I want to do as far as the 2 memory slots go? Now, remembering that I need this to be at 18, I need 5 in total. So in fact, the best combination that I can do here would be to talk to the Stimpling. In this case, Shaft won't go amiss. Offer this beast my company. Who knows? Perhaps it will offer something in return. And then, just to simplify matters, we'll do... I could do the Geminiad, I think. And so for this, we're going to need 8 Grail. Technically, we could do 7 if we added the spice scales, but of course I'm going to want to use that with Mrs. Kill, so I can master this mystery. Enough Grail to match Mystery Grail. Now, we do also want to feed one of the chickens. In fact, let's just get some grapes for that. Okay, cloudy day. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. Alright. The midwife's assistants. As somber as autumn, as kind as autumn. She also likes her beer. I think for now, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern while we just finish the chat with the Stimfling. At some point I'll want to feed it and get it leveled up and such, but right now I'm happy to let it wait. And of course this would normally be a time to commit a bunch of things to the Tree of Wisdoms and talk about those, but time is paused when I set up for that, so I'll let this stuff run through, and then we'll definitely finish out with some commitments. And now it suggests a meal would be welcome. On a clear autumn day, the story goes, you can see Yeez from the Watchman's Tower. I don't know whether that's true, but on a clear day in Numa, you could see the city unbuilt. Dr. Brian Levinson. So, we will go to the governor's phonograph. Callers generally preferred his devices to be as gleamingly modern as possible, but he preferred phonograph cylinders over the newer gramophone records. The cylinder, like the records, exemplified ingenuity and reliability, and reliably repeated the desired sounds, but they could also be consigned neatly to a cubbyhole without causing any sort of fuss. Okay, so Horizon Sight. This time we'll use the occult scrap just because we do have a straightforward way of getting that now. So here we will take a Tower Rises. We will apply, nope, not Sky Stories, Pearl and Tide. I can also make an Enduring Reflection if I want. And we will apply the Crack Track. Nope, what am I saying? Vac. I can master this mystery. Enough Rose to match Mystery Rose. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. Now there is a temptation here to just draw down the elements of the soul. I think I will, just because I know we're going to be getting a whole lot of them soon. So there's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 worth of odd jobs. And for Mrs. Kill, let's start by talking... Actually, we'll talk about the Arab just because there's a danger that I may take more of this away. My pride will find an echo in theirs. We'll follow with the spice scales just so we have that available soon as well. And then, because I've got the consider verb available, I'll use the fet for this, but we'll take the yellowing newspaper and get the occult scrap back. Investigate the object. Alright, so I think that's put us in a decent position for the next day. What we will do now, as promised, let's finish off our journey for the Tree of Wisdoms. There's a few different ways that I can handle this. I was thinking there could be the elements of the soul that I need the most, or there could be the, I could just kind of go based off of, you know, a circle through the Tree of Wisdoms. What I'll do here, I notice for my notes, I put it down as Ithistry, Illumination, Hushery, Nyctodromy, Skolakosophy, Bosk, Preservation, and Birdsong. Now, I imagine that doing that clock may not fully work. So, for instance, I think in Illumination, I may find that I... actually, you know what? Nope, I will be fine. But if I get to a point where I'm stuck, I'll just move over to the next one. But in this case here, we want 7, and this should be glass blowing and vessel crafting. So glass blowing and vessel crafting, we are all vessels. Let us contain only what will grace us when the light shines through. And I thought there was a description. There we go. Ithistry, the bright art of alchemy, metallurgy, pyrotechnics, sometimes called the art that alters. Glass the egg. The highest purpose of a glass vessel, to show clearly, perfectly, what would otherwise be hidden within. Perhaps, Ithistry suggests, this was the first purpose of the first hour, and only in that first moment could there be perfect clarity. Now, Bells and Braziers was next, so this is actually a pretty short commitment list because I'm currently using it. So we will take our Faust and run. Sorry about that. That was a little bit of an anticlimax, but we are at the half-hour mark. So we'll kind of carry on in this way. So I will be reading some books. I'll be increasing the levels for the various skills as I get the memories. We'll follow the usual rule of raising the floor. But the main focus is going to be Mrs. Kill and the sealed vault. But I think that's it for today. So thank you very much for watching. We'll see you Wednesday. Tuesday there isn't normally a broadcast, but we will have a new video ready for you on Wednesday. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.